Hi, welcome to Filmology. I'm Ariana, and today I'm making a sort of serious video about regarding the racial diversity in Hollywood. After the Orlando shooting and all the crazy attacks on black people in America that have been happening for the past 200 years, but especially in the past year. Like 2 men have died in the past 2 days. That's ridiculous. So that sort of inspired me to sort of have a look at how people of color are represented in films, because I was looking at my DVD collection and there were very few films with black people in them. And it's not like I'm cherry picking them, like I'm choosing specifically because they don't have any black people in them. It's just the films that I happen to have, and very few of them have black people in leading roles, or even any black people at all, and then even fewer have Asian people. So I thought it was an interesting topic to talk about because it's so nuanced and complicated. So I'm not giving answers or even asking for answers. I'm just sort of throwing thoughts out there, sharing my ideas and sharing my discoveries that I did through my research, hoping that we can start sort of adding more things to the conversation, because I'm a very white person. Obviously I'm not I'm definitely not an authority in black or Asian culture, not at all, but I watch films a lot and I watch a lot of foreign films. And so I thought it was an interesting thing to look at Hollywood and how their relationship with race is. So, let's talk about racial diversity in Hollywood. I'd like to begin with a quote from the new Michael Moore documentary called Where to Invade Next. It's from a woman whose name I can't remember because it's a very complicated Icelandic name, but she basically said with regards to women in politics and in financial corporations and basically in companies in general, that one person is a token representation, 2 is a minority, and 3 is when you start to really get things done and changed. So with that in mind, you can pretty much gauge that most representations of black and Asian people in films, in Hollywood films, are either token or a very exclusive minority, unless they are made specifically for a few reasons. You have the Tyler Perry films, which are all full African American cast, and they're made by Tyler Perry, and they're very aimed at a black audience. You have films that are about racial issues like 12 Years a Slave, which is about slavery, and Selma, which is about civil rights, the civil rights movement, and Glory, which is about the Civil War. So you have these films which are about racial issues, so of course they're gonna feature racially diverse actors because that's the point of them. But when you get to the point where in X film 2, The Rise of Whatever, the next major film blockbuster, where you have an Asian or a black actor as a lead actor and a few other people of color as the supporting cast, and the film isn't about racial issues, that's when you have true representation, because it's not a film that is about something that relates to race. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Of course, these films are very culturally important, they're very relevant, they talk about issues that need to be talked about, but in terms of representation, they're not particularly, they're not really something that should count as a positive representation, because you're just showing another black guy as a slave, and why not show him as the Jerry Maguire character? Why not have John Cho be, you know, George Clooney in whatever? Like, that's the point that I'm trying to get across very non-eloquently. And thing is, when you have only one character represented in these films, like when you have Dave Chappelle and you've got Mail cracking jokes and being wise, you have the issue of stereotyping. It's very easy to stereotype people when you only have one person to look at. You think, oh, that's him. He's all of them. And that's exactly what you don't want, to have a whole kind of people stereotyped by one person. That's exactly what you don't really want. And I think representation is important for two reasons. Two very important reasons. For a number of reasons, but two main reasons are why it's important. It's because when you have something that is wide-ranging, like when you have a huge cast of people and most of them are, you know, and they're all different races and they all look different, then you are not allowing segregation to take place. You're allowing a mix and match, and you have different character dynamics, you have different relationships between characters, you have interesting plot lines that can develop that might or might not be based on race. They could be based on gender. If you're talking about a black woman, that's even more relevant. So all of that is very important, because then you're not validating the prejudice that these people shouldn't be there. Because if they're there and no one's making a big deal that they're there, then they're just there. And it's not like a thing, you know? You're just like, okay, they're there, they could be there, they should be there, they belong there. Does that make any sense? And the second point is that it provides an example and a role model for younger generations to make changes. If they see that they can do that, then they can do other things as well. You know, it's like a little girl sees a woman being, you know, a really cool sports lady, and she's like, I want to be a sports lady, so she goes and becomes a sports lady. Or, you know, she sees a politician who's a woman, so she's inspired to become a politician. Representation matters because it allows you to see yourself in that position. You know, you can always say you can be the first, but not everyone can be the first. Being the first takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of strength, and to put that pressure on a young person is unfair. You shouldn't say to a 5-year-old, you can be the first female black president, because, like, why don't you say you can be a female black president? You know, because that should be achievable. So you shouldn't put the pressure of being first on a young child. You should allow the young child to aspire to be that person by allowing the representation to happen now. Before I start talking about films in particular, I thought like a really good way to kickstart the film discussion would be at the Academy Awards, because apparently now they're really diverse, because 42% of the members of the Academy are not white men. Yay! Tokenism, because, you know, that counts. They're acting like that's a really big deal, with a capital B, capital D, but is it though? Is it though? Because it is only 42%. Like, you still have more than half of them that are white men. So, I don't know. But anyway, because I made this list, I made a list here of Asian and African American actors who have won the Academy Award for Best Actor and for Best Supporting Actress. A couple of other notes here, because I thought they might be relevant. So let's go through the list, shall we? Male lead, Sidney Poitier, 1963. Denzel Washington, 2001. Jamie Foxx, 2004. Forest Whitaker, 2006. And that's it. Four male actors have won the Academy Award for Best Male Lead. Female lead, Halle Berry, 2001. That's it. Only female actress to ever win that award. Great. Male supporting actor, Louis Gossett Jr., 1982. So 19 years after the first lead one. Denzel Washington, 1989. Cuba Gooding Jr., 1996. And that's it. Female supporting actors, Hattie McDaniel, 1939. That's from Gone with the Wind. She was the first black actor in general to ever be nominated for an Academy Award, which is a really big deal. And she played Mammy in Gone with the Wind, which is particularly relevant because she's like a very strong female character in a film that takes place during the Civil War, and she works for a family that's part of the Confederacy. So it's a very interesting, nuanced role that, you know, it's really cool that she won the award for. But I read that apparently she wasn't going to be allowed to go to the, I think it was in Georgia, to the premiere in Georgia of Gone with the Wind, and Clark, because, you know, segregation purposes, and Clark Gable like threw a fit. He was looking to boycott the whole thing, like she needs to go. So they made allowance for her to go, but like it's upsetting that she needs her male co-star to be like, I'm not gonna go to this unless you let her go to this, you know. But that was 1939, so, and we're still having people boycotting the Oscars because of lack of representation, like, what, 70 years later? Next actor to win the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress? Whoopi Goldberg in 1990. Yep. 50 years later. That took a while. Then Jennifer Hudson in 2006, Monique 2009, Octavia Spencer in 2011, and Lupita Nyong'o in 2013. So, yeah. And I made a couple more notes saying that, like, Rami Adeforosin, that's a cool name that I can't pronounce, and I apologize for that. He won the Academy Award for Best Cinematography in 1998. Actually, he didn't win. He was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Cinematography in 1998. And he was the first and last black person to be nominated for the Academy Award for Cinematography. And Hugh A. Robertson was nominated for an Academy Award in film editing in 1969, and he was also the first and last person to be nominated. So that's fun. And with the Asian actors, it's even more depressing, if you can accept that, if you can believe that. Because there are fewer nominations, because you have a very sort of a longish list of nominations for Best Actors, and a lot of people have been nominated, just they haven't won. With the Asian actors, you have like 2 actors. For instance, in the male lead, 2 actors have ever been nominated. Only 2. One of them has been nominated twice, but they've only been nominated just 2. And the winner was Yui Brynner in 1956, and Ben Kingsley won in 1982 for Gandhi. And they're the only actors to be nominated, and Ben Kingsley is half Asian, he's not even full Asian, and so that's even better. And the female lead, no winners ever, but there has been 1 nomination from Merle Oberon in 1935. No Asian actresses have ever been nominated for an Academy Award. I couldn't find any sources for Native American, because I don't think that they have that. There's a list of films, I think, because there's like a bunch of films about Native American actresses and actors and stuff, but they don't really make lists of them because it's less obvious. Male supporting actor, the winner was Hang S. Ngor? I'm sorry, I can't pronounce these names. I'm really bad at pronouncing names that aren't my name. But he won in 1984 like 32 years ago. And female supporting actress was Miyoshi Umeki in 1957. So that's depressing. That's even worse than the African American actors. And, you know, that they're both a very, very serious issue that should be talked about equally. But looking at it, like having physical evidence of how underrepresented they are in the awards films, because the awards films are the films that people talk about, you know? They're the films that, because it's one thing to have a really good film on Netflix that people are gonna watch, but no one's gonna talk about Advantageous, no one's gonna talk about Beasts of No Nation, even though they should. They're not going to. So it's important to have these nominations and to talk about them, or talk about the lack of them even. So all of that brings us to the list of films that I made. The films are, I made the list of thinking about characters that are token characters, so characters that have a purpose in a film, or they're leads, or they aren't there for wisecracking, or just to make sure that the lead has someone to talk to, a la Dave Chappelle in You've Got Mail, or Ludacris in No Strings Attached, stuff like that. And yes, I just referenced No Strings Attached in this very important video. Isn't that sad? So yeah, so I'm gonna look at the paper because I didn't memorize the films because I just wrote them like 2 hours ago. But there isn't quite a lot of them. Like you have 12 Years a Slave, Selma, films like that, or like Gandhi, and films like Will Smith films or Morgan Freeman films or Denzel Washington films, where usually they are the important characters or even the main characters or God. So that's the sort of important role. But I was trying to think more broadly in terms of that. Like, for instance, you have a film like Cloud Atlas where there's the core actors who play all of the roles. So you have Tom Hanks and Hugh Grant, but also Halle Berry and Duna Bay, and several other people who throughout the film play different characters, and sometimes they are racially changed. You have Halle Berry and Tom Hanks and Hugh Grant changed into a different race, but you also have you know, Duna Bay and Jim Sturgis and stuff. So you have Duna Bay and Halle Berry playing white women, and you also have Jim Sturgis playing an Asian man, kind of comic-y looking like this. Not very good, but you know, I guess he looks the part. I don't know. Well, also like Forest Whitaker is a good shout for that. He's usually really good. He's in really good films, Battlefield Earth aside. And then I kept thinking about Star Trek. Star Trek is a strange film because you have, and I'm talking about the new one, the old one has a bunch of other things that you can talk about, but like the new reboot, it's very weird because it's not really there in terms of race. You know, you have John Cho and you have Zoe Saldana, who are the only people of color, like it's the only actors of color in the original anyway. But, you know, and while they're not stereotypes, they don't really have anything to do. Like Sulu and Uhura had things to do in the original stories, but they don't really have anything to do in the film. So what's up with that? Even like in the film, I guess Sulu was never like main character, but Uhura had like tons of stuff to do in the films, in the original stories. So it's a bit of a wonky type of thing. But then you have films like Last King of Scotland with Forest Whitaker. That's a really great film, and it's set in an African country, so everyone's black except for James McAvoy, who is the white invader person. And it does have really cool racial dynamics alongside everything else, because it's not really about race itself, it's about dictatorship and you know, it's kind of like, it gives you the same sort of awkward feeling as Hotel Rwanda, because we are not privy to what's happening in Africa, so every time we see it we're like, oh my god, is it that bad all the time? Like, of course it isn't. Of course it's not that bad all the time. It's just that the only times we see it, times are bad. So, and I thought about mentioning My Beautiful Laundrette, but that's not a Hollywood film. However, it does talk about, it does have like, it's really cool because it's like race and gay rights and class system. It's like boom, 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 3 big issues, and then talk about it in a really nuanced fashion that gets the point across and also makes it an entertaining film. Boom! Go, My Beautiful Laundrette. If you like Daniel Day-Lewis, you should watch that. It's a really good Daniel Day-Lewis film, but it's also a really good film that you can look at it through, like, from so many different angles, from like race, class, sexuality, masculinity. Like, it's a really great film. I think one of the most like relevant films when you talk about race and lead actors and stuff, it's probably Night of the Living Dead, because while there's only one black actor, he is the lead of the film. He is the you know, but at the end he gets killed because they think he's a zombie. So you're like, wow, you're making, like, he's not, Romero wasn't, you know, making a point about race when he made it, but it really comes across like, holy shit, that would happen, wouldn't it? And because the white saviors of the town are going there to go into the house and stuff, and he thinks he's saved, but they think he's a zombie. And you're like, if you were a white person, would they really think he's a zombie, you know? Is that a racial thing? So that's a really cool thing that you can think about. 2 films that I like to mention as well is Fruitvale Station and Creed, both directed by Ryan Coogler, both featuring Michael B. Jordan. Ryan Coogler is a black director. He makes films that are mostly about black characters, and Fruitvale Station especially, it is about police brutality. It is about these issues that are happening right now, and it was in 2001, like, it was set in 2001, and these issues are still happening today, 15 years later. So that's even more relevant, because Creed, you know, Rocky film, yay. Haven't seen it. Looks really good though. But Fruitvale Station, it's a really good film. I highly recommend it. And then you have films like, you know, Straight Outta Compton, Top 5, which are made by a black crew, black director, black actors, about black people, and that's the issue, and they talk about that and their lives and stuff. And they're obviously not Tyler Perry movies. Like, Tyler Perry movies are made for a very specific audience. They're more universal films that you can watch, and, you know, you can get, like, it's like, it's called Dear White People. You know, it's kind of like providing commentary. Actually, I don't know, I don't think that Straight Outta Compton's doing that, but it is providing some sort of commentary about black culture, which is interesting. Much like Dope. Dope is a great film, and it's about 3 teenagers, 2 of whom are black, 1 of whom is Asian, and, you know, it does provide, at the very end, a really fantastic monologue about being a young black person in America right now, especially in, like, Southern California. Then you have a film like Tangerine, which, again, much like My Beautiful Laundrette, it's like, boom, race, class, sexuality, because it's about 2 transgendered black prostitutes, but you think, oh, it's gonna be really sad and depressing, but it's like funny and witty and cool, and it's just a really feel-good film most of the time. Sometimes it's not quite there, it gets a bit pointed, but it's very good at that. And I was trying to think of films that aren't quite, like, you know, making points. They're like more about, they're just like every other film. They aren't trying to make a point because they shouldn't have to make a point. You shouldn't have to make a film to make a point about race or whatever. And the only one that I could think of was Harold and Kumar, which I think is a really great example. Harold and Kumar is a fantastic series of very funny films. I've only ever seen actually 2 of them, but Harold and Kumar Get the Munchies is hilarious and it's amazing and everyone should see it. And John Cho's in it as well. John Cho is one of the best people in the world. Love him. And to a certain extent, you also get like Tarantino films that are they aren't to make a point about making a point about race. You have like Pulp Fiction, which isn't, and then like The Hateful Eight and Django Unchained, which are, and Jackie Brown, which is kind of is as well, with Pam Grier. And these films are sort of, you know, they have the representation, but like how much can we trust this because of all the N-words that they say, and it's a bit awkward because a white man wrote that, but these black actors are cool with saying it, so it's like, I don't know, how do I feel about this? And you know, like Star Wars: The Force Awakens has 2, well, see, Oscar Isaac is Latino, right? And I have issues with the Latinx nomination because I'm Brazilian and I'm technically Latina, but would you consider me a person of color? I don't know. I was never, like, that's very complicated and I don't know how much I can get into that because I'm not well informed enough to do it. So I'm just throwing it out there, just to the world. But John Boyega is in the film and Lupita Nyong'o is in it, but she's also motion captured, which people need to stop doing that to Lupita. She needs to be everywhere. You need to see her face. She's beautiful. And as I mentioned before, Advantageous. It's a sci-fi film about an Asian woman. Not about her being Asian. She's just an Asian woman who happens to be there. She's the lead character, and it's a really cool film. And, you know, I think all of these films, they sort of, you know, I tried so hard to find them that they're not like token films, token actors in films, and it's just really difficult. So, yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure what point I was trying to make in this video. I don't think I'm trying to make a point. I think I'm just trying to share some thoughts that I think, you know, our society is a reflection of what, you know, we allow the media to show, and the media is a reflection of what society is. So there needs to be a shift in how we represent everyone in order for changes to happen, because like the Icelandic businesswoman said, 1 person is a token, 2 people is a minority, and it's when you have 3 people is when things start to change. So we need 3 people. 3,000 people, even. We just need 3 people, and that's when a change is gonna happen. So, you know, we need to get to that. Thank you for watching. Bye.